the time that we had set up. So we are now live on Facebook, and Dr. Papu is trying to join, but I don't. It says devices not connected. So maybe he's gonna
Okay.
try again.
Can I advise that we go live and then I open the show when we go, please? It's 2 o'clock.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead. It's live now, Chow, and then uh, you can go ahead. I was just saying Dr. Papu is not here yet. Go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to everybody watching live on Facebook this afternoon. A day that we have all been looking forward to, the day of the launch of this book. Okay, and this is The Gap in the Cloud. Okay, very, very nice title, very catchy title, this one here. And welcome to the launch, therefore, wherever you tuning in. You're free, by the way, to drop us comments or questions, and we'll see how far we can go with your questions and your comments. All right. And in the studio with me, we've got the author of the book. You just seen his face on the single big picture, and I think he'd better do that again. If you did it by fluke, sorry, but you got to do it again. And that's Patrick Kulati Lonwabo. He is the author of A Gap in the Cloud. And also in the panel, we have Amyas Mvunelo Mfundis, Pastor Amyas Mvunelo. He's the founder of the Amyas Mvunelo group. And yeah, it would be good to see a single shot of him as well, so he can wave out there, you know, to the guests that have just joined us for the launch. All right. Okay. Peter, are you able to zoom in to Pastor Mvunelo for us, please? Okay. That's fine. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. Where it says solo, you can go with him. Okay. On his picture, just below his picture there. Yeah. That no, his picture, not yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. His picture. And we can go solo. There's an option to go solo with his picture, and that will give us a zoom into his picture. Nevertheless, let me carry on and introduce the rest of the panel. Lyndon Tooley is founder, managing director, and content specialist at Bonani Contents, and she is the book editor, and she is the project manager. So it's great to have the editor here with us. Lindy, we welcome you as well. It's great we could get your single picture. We welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be posing some questions to you as well, particularly as the editor. Also, forming part of the panel is Lyndall McCarthy. Lyndall is head of customer experience at Stewardship. And Lyndall joins us from the UK. Okay. All right.
She's battling traffic of London, so she's going to join us a bit later.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. That's fine. All right. And then we have Vuyo Pana. Is Vuyo in the studio again?
Yes, sir.
That's right. Vuyo is high-level radio access engineer at Cell C. So it's great that we have engineers. We shouldn't have any problems this afternoon because we have an engineer amongst us. Vuyo, thank you for joining us for this book launch. Great stuff. Thank you. All right. Then we have Dr. Jongimpi Papu. This is a man who they say needs no introduction. He's an African pioneer, an African scholar, an international speaker and lecturer, preacher, motivational speaker, family life coach, marriage counselor, and he's got all these titles. He is currently at the Adventist University of Africa and based in Kenya as a deployee of the General Conference. Okay, so Mfundisi, it's good to have you as well on the panel here today.
It's my pleasure to be with you. I feel very honored. Thank you for the invitation. And greetings, of course, to the listeners, audience.
Lovely, lovely. And last but by no means least, Kajeni, have we got Andrew in the panel?
Yes, sir.
Andrew is the wilderness therapy instructor and an endurance athlete, a speaker as well, and an author. Andrew wrote the foreword for this book. I understand, Andrew, you come a long way with this young man, and it's good to have you.
It's extremely great to be here and a true privilege. I'm so excited. I've been waiting with butterflies for this book launch for quite a while. It's good to be here with everybody in the panel and everyone watching.
Great stuff. Okay, we'll be going back to Andrew in a short while. I just want to talk to the author first about a few things, and then I'll throw some questions to the panelists. And wherever possible, if a question is directed at somebody, I will then indicate their name so they could take the question. But the first one, really, this is a conversation. Patrick, what made you in your life and in your career realize that it's high time to write a book? And what kind of book is your book? Is this Gap in the Cloud in the category of the fiction books or the non-fictional books? And I'm asking this for everybody in the audience and everybody watching on Facebook so they get a feel of the kind of book that we talk about. What led you to write A Gap in the Cloud? And perhaps let me marry that question with a question about the title as well. You've written your book. In my understanding, this is your first book. You've written A Gap in the Cloud. And what made you to write this book with such a fascinating title? Okay. What made you to write a book, particularly this one?
Thank you, Chawe. Thank you so much to all the panelists. I'm honored to have all of you here. Chawe, this book came about during the time of COVID-19, a painful time when I saw a lot of people that I knew dying and going through pain and problems. And at the same time, as a country, we're going through the state capture, which was actually looking at leadership and looking at the situation that was taking place in our country. And so I had a moment of existential analysis to say, what am I here on this earth to do? And around about that time, I wrote a review of your own book, by the way, The Prize and Price of Greatness, if I say it correctly.
And Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yes. And we had a chat about it. And I think you gave me the oomph to really, when I told you the title, you gave me the oomph to say, write this book. And I remember we put a deadline of my next birthday, which was 2021. So, and I started really working, and then I lost some steam and I picked up again. So the book title comes from a trip that I took from here. Because when I was going through this existential crisis of asking myself, what am I here to do on this earth? I had to go back and look at my experience. And this book came about the title of the book came about as I was taking a flight from here, Johannesburg. I was still living in Cape Town then. I was taking a small flight at night. It was windy. And so the air captain, the plane captain, said, when we get to Durban, when we get to Pietermaritzburg, we might do a bit of circling because the winds were strong, the clouds were big, and the rain was pounding. And he said, listen, we're going to do a bit of a couple of circles, but if we cannot land in Durban, we're going to go in Pietermaritzburg, we're going to go to Durban. And so indeed, I fell asleep, and I was woken up by him coming back online to say, ladies and gentlemen, we found a gap in the cloud. Man,
wow.
That phrase, that image stuck in my mind. And I remember I don't remember actually going to fetch my luggage. But I started writing on my book pad. And I started writing what became the contours of this book. And that evening, I went to my hotel in Pietermaritzburg. I couldn't sleep. This idea was strong in my head. And this book basically is about clouds of my life and gaps that have happened. It's giving hope to say, whatever clouds represent difficulties, challenges, and problems. Gaps represent breakthroughs, overcoming. So whatever you're going through, and I had to think about this during COVID-19 because I was scared. I was worried about what the world was going, and I needed to do something meaningful. And so this book comes from that, Chawe. Thank you.
Oh, amazing, man. And in case you just joined us, welcome to the online virtual launch of this exciting book here, this autobiography, A Gap in the Cloud. Well, Patrick Kulati, the author, is a leader, a speaker, an innovative content creator, and now an author. And he has survived multiple personal and leadership tragedies, and that's why he speaks about clouds. In his language, he talks about clouds. His narrative is finding a gap in the cloud, whatever clouds your mind. Currently, there are a lot of things that are clouding a lot of people's minds. During COVID, post-COVID, people are still clouded by a whole lot of socio-economical and some spiritual and some, to a certain extent, religious issues, economic issues and social issues and all of that. Well, Patrick has led international NGOs, serving as CEO for International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives in Africa. And at some stage, he served as the chief executive for Paraffin Safety Association of South Africa, and also as chief executive of Habitat for Humanity SA, and currently national director or chief executive for SOS Children's Villages in South Africa. He is the founder of Kulati Coaching and Consulting and the Black Man's Coach. All right. So that's the kind of author. You can see that he's quite loaded, and he probably didn't battle to put, the chapters around developing the index for his book. I just want to move to the gentleman that wrote the foreword. When Andrew, I'm coming to you now. When you got the manuscript for the book, and Patrick perhaps demonstrated to a particular level or a particular extent his confidence in you, and after going through, or while you were going through his manuscripts, what went through your mind, and also in terms of how you know him personally?
Well, first of all, it was a huge privilege just to be able to go and read the manuscript before it had been printed. And then second of all, to be asked to write the foreword is one of the greatest privileges that I've had, or been asked of someone else. And, I first met Patrick when I was doing a challenge in Cape Town, raising money for 3 charities, and Habitat for Humanity was one of them. And, with limited interactions, just on a kind of a business relationship with him, I could already see the depth of the character. And, as an example, I was raising money for 3 different charities, and Lyndall, who's on the panel, is actually who I was working with very closely in that. And she told me how Patrick had said, any kind of inquiries that come through the website, to please redirect them to what I was doing. Such was the power that he believed in what I was doing, that he was happy to even share a connection with 3 other charities. It was kind of the real essence for me of Ubuntu that we shared together. And, to read his manuscript it gave me a greater insight into who the man was that I already knew. And it gave me a greater respect for him. I had such a huge love of the way that he lit up a room, like especially at my 100th event when he walked in. And I'd heard like little gaps that he'd spoken to me about, like, you know, how his mom receiving a home, how much that had impacted him and his life and their life. But to now actually read in his own words the experiences that he's been through, and to see the character of who he is and the man that he has become is truly, and as I'm saying that, I'm getting goosebumps on my neck. It really is remarkable. And it's the type of book that gives me hope and will give the reader hope of whatever difficulty you're going through. There's ways that you can move through it with grace, with kindness and compassion for yourself and for the environment that you're in. And it's such a powerful book that I hope the people watching will immediately jump online and get it when it's available.
Amazing. Thanks. Let me just bring in Lindy here, and I'm going to come to the rest of the panel in terms of what your views are about the book, what your impressions are about the book. But I just need to bring out certain aspects of putting together a project like this. And Lindy, let me come to you, the person who edited the book. From what you gathered in going through Patrick's works, was it a difficult task to edit his works? Did it excite you? Did you find the correlation of the title throughout the chapters that he had put in nicely on the book?
That's a very interesting question. And I can see Lorna was like waiting anxiously for that answer. Like, what is she going to say? But it was hard in a sense that I had to do a lot of like self introspection as well, whilst trying to edit and read his book. Because there were moments where I sort of got distracted instead of focusing on my job, where I just paused on a chapter and I'm like, wow, this is just amazing. So just, to start off, he told me that he had started writing the book, I think 11 or 10 years ago. I can't remember, Patrick, but around that time. And he only spoke about it when, or rather he only contacted me last year. And I asked him, like, why did it take so long? And obviously, like, there were reasons and so forth. But I believe that everything happens for a reason at a certain time. And this is the time for A Gap in the Cloud, So it was amazing to read. He's quite a talented author, an anointed author as well. I think that through his experience, a lot of people will find healing and purpose in themselves as well. Because I think after the pandemic, a lot of people are sort of like lost and confused with the direction they should take. They're looking for that inner, fulfillment. And I think A Gap in the Cloud is exactly what people need right now. They need a gap after the pandemic that we just had. So he's a talented writer. Like, I've got nothing bad, no criticism to say in the public eye. I think we've discussed the criticism behind the scenes. Yeah. But no, all I can say is that working with Patrick was just a dream. It was beautiful. I enjoyed every aspect of it. He's very efficient as well, I must say. Like, you would ask him to correct a certain chapter and within like a minute, like, he sends it back, so you can't even breathe, take 1 minute to take a break because he's already on to the next. So that's the nice thing of working with the author who's very efficient. And also writing from experience. I think writing is a calling. Some people just write for the sake of it, but it's actually a calling, and not everyone has that gift to do it. So this is one of those books where I think that it will just leave a lasting impression for many and for generations to come as well.
Were there aspects of the manuscript where you felt, Patrick, you can't say this in this book. I advise you take this one out. Sometimes editors, there are things that you want to communicate through your book, and they look at your manuscript and they look at the potential audience and they advise accordingly. Were there parts of the manuscript which you felt, no, but this one can't go in? Or rather, if it goes in, let's tone down a bit so you don't lose your audience. an international audience, an international readership that we anticipate for this book?
Yeah, there certainly were those areas. I think one particular one, you might remember this, it was towards the end of the chapter, where now he started marketing himself like crazy, like mentioning all the things that he's involved in, what he's doing. Because I was really enjoying like the book, and I was really into it. And then at the end, it's like sell, 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 sell. I'm like, whoa, you've lost me. So I had to ask him to tone it down. I'm like, you don't need to sell all those things that you're involved in. I think just your story is enough. Is enough for people to get hooked on the book. And I think after reading your story, people will want to engage, obviously, with you and find out what else you're doing, but you don't want to overwhelm people with all the projects that you're busy with or the businesses that you're involved in. So I had to ask him to tone it down. And he agreed. So I'm glad he did. I mentioned that, the other stuff, they can go in the website and, when you're doing interviews and so forth. But yeah, we had to eliminate that. And he was okay with that. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. All right. In case you just joined us now, we in a conversation about the launch of a book, A Gap in the Cloud. The author is with us in the panel. His name is Patrick Kulati, as you can see. Let me move to Mfundiso Amias Mvunelo. Mfundiso, of what you know personally, your personal relations with Patrick, when you heard that he's got this project and this is the title, did it resonate well with the person that you know, whether from a business world or in church circles, social circles, just to think of Pat the man and the title of the book?
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Just give
Absolutely.
me
Yeah, go ahead.
You can hear me.
Thanks.
I'm not sure my technicals are.
No, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, I wish to take this time to congratulate Patrick for the project he has successfully completed. Thanks, Lindy, for revealing that it has taken 10, 11 years. I didn't know that part. But I remember some years ago when I was Patrick Kulati's pastor in Cape Town, I had released my book called To Lead, which he has a copy in the background, I see there. And Patrick was so impressed and wanted to, he said he was so impressed with the fact that I had written the book. Little did I know that he would be writing his own, and I'm really, really glad that he did. And the book, Lindy, if I may just touch on the technical aspects, is quite extensive. It's over 300 pages, is it?
Yeah.
I think that's about that. Yeah. And I was initially, I said, Pat, you wrote so much. How come you wrote so much? And I got to understand why he wrote so much. He's an illustrative writer. He, as you say, he's a gifted writer. He wants you to see the picture of where things are. So I'm glad, Patko, if I may say, that Patrick has written the book, but I'm also having read the book, I have come to believe that the book will have tremendous impact on people's lives. If you ask me, it's a book that will change the world. It's his story, yes, but the way he's written it and the content, like he says, it is dealing with where people are. And I know, as you say, in the spiritual world, it will find resonance with many people, but also in the business world too, it will find resonance with several people that will find it meaningful and helpful in their journey, in their struggles, in their difficulties, and in their crucibles. because Patrick writes a lot about his crucibles. One of the crucibles he wrote about, I was part of that history while I pastored him in Cape Town. And so when I read, my first reading was straight on the one that says, Mr. Kulati, you've got cancer.
You have cancer.
So I went straight to that one because I was part of that story. Because I was part of this, I was a pastor in of the family at that time. I remember sitting in the bedroom with him and discussing this situation. But I did not find a man who was devastated, who was flattened out. But when he tells the story, the preliminaries before that moment I went to see him, I could understand the journey he went through. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. All right. We will come to, and it's interesting, Pastor Mvunelo, that you touch on chapter 5, Mr. Kulati, you have cancer, because it's definitely one of the crucibles, one of those clouds that he had to find a gap in. And so we're going to touch on that. Let me just highlight the arrival of Lyndall McCarthy, head of customer experience at Stewardship from the United Kingdom. Lyndall has just joined us. Good afternoon, Lyndall. Can you hear me?
Hi, Patco. Yes, thank you. It's great to be here.
Lovely. Great stuff. Okay. Lyndall, you're in the UK. How did you hook up? How did you hook up with Patrick? And what you picked up in the book, I don't know how much you've done in terms of reading, but what you've picked up, is it the continuity or consistency of what you know about Patrick?
So Patco, that's been the most amazing thing, actually, reading through the book. I was blessed to have Patrick as my CEO at Habitat for Humanity for a couple of years. And the thing that always struck me about him was just his capacity for people. His incredible storytelling was my favorite part of the week. Every time we came into the boardroom and he had something with real practical applications to tell us as a team, and with a real heart, a heart of a leader, of a father, of a God-fearing man. And reading the book, I thought back to a couple of times when I saw him, curiously scribbling in his diary, or just wishing that I could, put him in a little bottle to take with me, because it was those little kind of touch points that I had with him that were just so valuable to me in my own life at the time. Reading the book now, remembering some of those stories, hearing a lot of them elaborated on, understanding the context to them that I may not have understood at the time. Just incredibly invaluable. And now I've got it. I can go back to it whenever I want. I've already started rereading some of the chapters. So yeah, it's just been such a blessing. Well done, Lindy. You managed to take all of those and compile them into an incredible treasure of a book. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Linda. Thanks a lot. Well, let me also highlight the fact that most of the people in the studio here in this virtual discussion, most, if not all, are authors. And when you read somebody's manuscript, Dr. Papu, I'm coming to you now. When you read somebody's manuscript, it becomes important that, particularly when they're writing an autobio, that you actually hear their voice. And for some reason, I thought, Dr. Papu, that I would pose this question to you, because you did the foreword in my book. Thank you. I cannot say thank you enough for that. But one of the things that you highlighted was the fact that people got to hear your voice when you're writing your book. When they're reading your autobio, they got to hear your voice. They got to say, that's him. That's him. That's him. All the way from chapter 1 right up to chapter 16. So that's him. Did you get an impression when you came across Patrick's manuscript? And my question is going to be broad. And I think similar to Pastor Mbonelo, you also know Patrick from as way back as when you were in Cape Town together. And so knowing him way before he became a writer and a focused, passionate person, were you able to link what you know of him and the tone and the voice in the book?
Thank you, Patko, and greetings to my fellow panelists here. Listen, let me be honest. I know Pat. I've known him for some few years, and when he narrates the experience, especially the cancer part, I happened to have been in Cape Town. I wasn't in Cape Town, but I remember hearing that Pat is having a cancer, whatever. I didn't take it serious. I don't really take these things very serious. I mean, I've gone through cancer myself, and I just take it as part of life, and which is a mistake, of course, because you think that that's how others also do. And when I visited him, I can still see him in his ward, and we spoke. I can't remember. Actually, when I was reading the book, I felt a little bit embarrassed because I was trying to remember, what did I say? Did I say the right thing? Or sometimes I become too humorous. Because it's only when I read the book that I really understood that the man was actually in the shadow of death. He was really struggling. I didn't get that. And had I known, sorry, Pat, had I known now, probably I would have said some wise. I mean, honestly, and I must confess, I didn't know I felt it was just like those passing moments, and it's done and I'm okay. But I remember having been there. So reading the book has really opened my eyes, and not only that, but to really take life seriously for me also. I had the privilege to read his book before it came out. He asked me to just look at it, and I made some few comments, but I got lost in the book, and I told him that I forgot that I'm supposed to critique the book, and because the book was actually critiquing me, and how I'm looking at life. But I had to do that and say, listen, this is how the book is impacting me. So it has been an eye opener. Look, let me put it in my words. So these are two events that pivots, that sort of are in my language, I would say, hermeneutical pivotal point that just explains the rest of his life. These two events in his life, the life-threatening, the cancer, the livelihood-threatening, the job, sort of made him to see life. I call it conversion experience. Conversion in the sense that not knowing that you don't know, and then knowing that you don't know. To me, that's conversion. And the Damascus experience in the hospital and also in the boardroom, which made him to be conscious of certain things in his life, not for him to embrace life, but to define it. You know what they say about pain? You may not know that you've got an ear until it's painful. And then you are aware that, oh, by the way, I've got an ear. So pain is a way of making you see things that you take for granted. And that's what he has done. That's what the book has done for him. Little things where there was a gap. He didn't even see. He only sees it later. That, man, I made it. And these two events helped him to see those little ones, like being chased by someone in the village. Something that you would have forgotten, but because of this crisis, you begin to see even the little things in your life. So the book has been amazing. And let me say this, because I don't know whether I'm going to get another time. Life is too short. So let me say this also.
We'll find a gap. Don't worry, we'll find a gap. We'll find a gap for you.
I might not get a gap in this cloud. So let me say this. What impressed me is, and I was reading the book again 2-3 days ago when he was talking about his experiences, understanding of from wound to scars. I've always said this in my talks that you must minister through your wounds, and you must you know. And I said, no, but that's wrong. And I was reading Pett's book. I said, that's wrong. People who are speaking from wounds are dangerous. They wound others. But you rather speak from your scars. You know, in other words, there has been healing. And I think sometimes we speak before there's healing, and then you wound everyone. but I think the 10 years gave him time enough, which is good, by the way. Had he done it within a year, he would have maybe caused all kinds of things, left all questions in our minds. But he had settled, and then he could share from his scars, not from his wounds, from his scars. And for me, that was one of the take home, that we may not always be responsible for our wounds, but your healing is your responsibility. And from there, you can actually heal others who are wounded. And I must say, it's been a blessing. I know I've not answered your question. I just said what I wanted to say.
Well, I did get part of the answer, in the sense that yes, you do endorse not only the title but what you read in the book, really to be having his voice, and Vuyo will also qualify this. Let me bring in Vuyo Pana from Celsi. Vuyo, you still with Celsi?
Yes, I'm still with Celsi. Yes, I'm still with Celsi.
That's right. That's right. You owe all of us here contracts.
It's not yet been retrenched.
Just a gap, my brother. Not much. Just a gap. We are just share your highlights. You know, your impressions and what I would call your key takeaways from the book. You know, in what you've read and what you know about Pett as a man and the person that you know, professional that you know.
As a friend, my key takeaways is I went to the early parts, the upbringing with the grandparents. That was quite striking, with the grandparents, and then how he used to help his grandfather with his bike when it was raining. and also how he met his wife. Actually, it's a very interesting story how he narrates that part of the story, and also how decisive Sis Nomonde was when after he had proposed, that she told him, "Hey, you have to wait for me for a year." I joked with him about this actually when I spoke. I sort of gave him some feedback when I asked how the book has impacted me. There's also aspects in the book where he actually, when he writes a chapter, he will begin with a story, and he'll put the story, a nice story in the beginning part of the book, and towards the end, he will do a summary. There's the chapter on making decisions, and I think the part of meeting Sis Nomonde is part of the key decisions that he made. How he moved from PE, now Gqeberha, to Maritzburg, that life journey, and actually how many key decisions he made. Towards the end of that chapter, he has a long list of about few aspects that he gives out in terms of making decisions, the information that you take in making those decisions, and how it comes about making decisions. There's also an aspect like you're not gonna know everything when you make decisions. So I think it's quite a key aspect. Let me bring in another story here where how this makes an impact. In 2011, I got married, and Pett at the time, we went to his house, me and my fiance at the time, to ask him to become the MC at our wedding. And nevertheless, to say the next year he had the challenge in here, which is 2012, with all the challenges. I'm always have gratitude for him doing that, because he did it free of charge. But when you're reading the book and reading all the life aspects and the challenges that he faced, it's quite an eye-opener, and also quite learnings that I've got out of the book.
Wow. All right, okay, let me check the time. It's 20 minutes to 3 now. Our conversation should be lasting an hour. So there are very important aspects of the book launch that I would love us to touch on. Pat, let me come to you. I should be doing justice in spending more time with the author. Let me come back to you. In the book, there's okay, apart from, and I think Vuyo is right. I love your approach in terms of stories that you tell, when you open your chapter. And early in the book, there's even a story of being chased. You must have been 10 years or 12 years when you were chased by a madman. And you found a gap under the fence. A gap under the fence. And it was not a gap in the cloud, but it was a gap for escape, a gap for escape. And I don't know what could have happened there. And I've discovered when you read autobios, people want to relate with the story. People, they relate with the places that you tell in the book. They Omamuno Kwaiyo, you know, people want to relate with people and names they know in your background. Why should our viewers buy this book, Pat?
Well, thank you for that. In this book, I tried to really juice my personal and leadership experiences, so that out of those experiences, other people can learn to navigate challenges and turn their tragedies into triumph. Basically, life is going to give us troubles. And in those troubles, we have no choice. But what I'm trying to do is to say, what if a curveball gets into your direction? What do you do? Do you go away? Do you run away? What do you do? So basically is to look, even in the depths of darkness, is to look for glimpse of hope, is to say, okay, I can do something about this and I can turn the situation around. I'm not helpless. I have agency. I'm a created being, created in the image of God. And therefore, there's more that I can do about any situation. But also the book is also about how do you leverage supporting systems by people, friends, institutions and communities like churches, for example. I had to rely a lot when I couldn't help myself on those networks and those support systems. And so one of the things that I'm saying in this book is that before you get into a crisis, because this book is written for three kinds of people. Those who are currently in crisis, I'm saying to them, you can make it. Then there are those who have already gone through the crisis. In this book, I'm celebrating them. And I'm And then there's the third group, which is about those people whose life is still glowing. Everything is going well. And I'm saying to them, listen, anything can change at any moment. So what you need to do is to get steps, get skills, get ideas of what you can do so that you don't go and experience it as unexpectedly as I did, as shockingly as I did. But at least you can actually use some of these things to anticipate and deal with your challenges.
Okay, Pat, thank you for answering me there. There's three words that I picked up, and I know the other panelists also did pick this up, and I would love them to talk to the viewer about them. You made use of 3 I's: identify, influence, and inspire. Maybe I'm going to start where I started earlier, and allow Andrew, if indeed you picked it up, as we're trying to persuade somebody in the audience to grab a copy somehow. And before we end the broadcast, we'll tell you more at home about how you can get yourself a copy of the book. But then, Andrew, did you get a sense that in the book, Patrick is inspiring people, is influencing the reader? If so, how?
Without question.
And I'm asking this question not only to you, to all the panelists. So, you know, when you find a gap to breathe, somebody might just come in and elaborate on how they think Patrick has made good use of those 3 I's. You know, identify, influence, and inspire. Okay, so Andrew, yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, without question, I find all of those aspects in it. And I think for me, what I really enjoyed and connected with the book about was, especially in today's world, with whether it's leadership or individuals, a lot of people talk, but very few actually turn that into action. And that for me is where a tremendous amount of inspiration comes from. Is Patrick doesn't just talk about things. He is sharing tools that he has actually used himself. And then he gives very eloquent examples throughout the book of different situations that it's not the same thing over and over and over again that he had to work through. So I think, you know, the person, they have to act to buy the book, and then they're going to read it, and then they have to act on exactly what he talks about. And for me, that was one of the things that truly is inspirational about him, is that, you know, he's achieved what he's done, and he's become the person he has because of the actions that he takes.
I think, Paco,
awesome. Yeah.
If you don't mind me
Go
coming
ahead.
in here. And Lindy, while I was reading the book, I was just so grateful to you as the editor for not editing the vulnerability out. I think the most powerful part of PK and what I know of him is that he is more than happy to share his humanity. He's so humble in his strength that he's prepared to share his weakness. And I think for, you know, where I'm at in terms of where I did identify with Patrick's stories in the book, it's just to know that we're not alone, that there are universal issues that we're all dealing with. And then for Patrick to then go that step further, to, after identifying, also then to have the insight to act, and to let the reader know that this is not the end. You're on a journey, and there are points in this journey, and some of them are going to be super hard, and some of them are going to be super amazing. You know, there are parts in Patrick's book where he's just been absolutely encouraged by his community, by his family, his incredible wife, his kids. Just knowing that we have that community around us, that we're not alone in what we experience. And that we can be vulnerable with each other, that we don't have to have this facade of strength. Just that, I think that was my key takeaway from this book. And it always has been my key takeaway from chatting with PK.
Yeah. Okay. Lindy, I need you to come in. You worked on the project from beginning to end. And the payoff line is turning tragedies into triumphs. Did you find this literally with every chapter? Is he speaking from personal experience so I can learn and be influenced and be inspired?
Definitely, but I think the most interesting part is how he starts from the beginning, because if we look at, you know, most South Africans, like, we want to aspire to be like the Patricks, you know, the Pat Kabafanis, but there's always a story which no one is always willing to go through the tough time to make it to the other end. But it's the only way. There's no other way. You know, if you want to be successful, you're gonna have to have a story firstly, and you're gonna go through some stuff, you know. And I like how he takes us to the beginning of how he grew up. You know, I think little boys in the villages or wherever can relate to that story, and they can look up to him and be like, oh, okay, one day I can also be like him. One day I can also be like a Vuyo or Andrew. You know, Andrew, I heard your story as well about how you got retrenched and climbed up Table Mountain. One day I will be you. But but I think with one thing that I've learned in life is that you need to surround yourself with people that have got the proof, the formula rather, to success. You know, I always say that copy the masters. If you want to be successful in life, do what successful people are doing. You know, if Patrick is waking up at 5 a.m., running every day, reading books, then that's exactly what you should be doing. So one thing I know is that people don't read because of the author, but they read because of how the book will benefit them. So I think one takeaway is that copy what Patrick is doing, and you will be successful like Patrick. So that's why you should get the book, because he's lived it, he's experienced it, and now he's got the rewards to show for it.
Lovely. Okay. Just with the three other gentlemen, Abefundis Novuyo, here's a question I'm gonna throw to you. As a Black person still struggling in Port Alfred and the surroundings, why would I buy this book? What is it that I would learn from the book? Charity begins at home. And there's somebody probably watching us from Port Alfred, Etawa, right there. Okay, Vuyo, why would Umduas Etawa buy this book?
I think one of the important aspects that comes out of the book is not to put a limit where you've grown up at, your surrounding areas, and not let those aspects of it to minimize you and even your how you could dream. One of the things that comes out of the book, you could tell that the author is well read in terms of even the illustrations that he makes, and how the book is written, even the narration that goes through the book, and the aspects of taking how he takes his surroundings where he is grown up, Ekawa, in Port Elizabeth, I think around Gokwatuwesi. I'm also from around those areas. I'm from Glenskool. Glenskool is a stone throw away from Gokwatuwesi. And how those stories, where he grew up, that information comes through. And it's important particularly for us in South Africa to look at even our past. It doesn't hide how our past sort of impacted us in certain ways. But that doesn't put a glass ceiling on your life. Even him venturing outside of Ikabech at the time, going to Maritzburg, to making those decisions, which was a tough decision, because at the time he gives this the atmosphere that was in KZN at the time, and how this is an interesting story, how his father went to the Crown. So those are aspects that you identify with, you connect.
Yeah.
With, it talks of where you come from. So those are things I've picked up. I grew up in those areas. It resonates with me deeply.
I like that. Pastor Mvunelo, why would you stand in front of Calvin on Athol in Sentin and promote this book to your fellow congregants there and say, Bazalwan, you need to get a copy of this book? And they would ask you, what is it, Mfundis, that we're going to get out of the book, and what would your message be?
Thank you very much. The book, as I've already indicated to Patrick in writing and in other ways, for me has great potential to hit the world, really, to reach from the villages of South Africa, as it were, to the big cities, because of the ability of the writer to take you with him, to make you to travel with him. Patrick's ability to brilliantly tell a story, he takes you, he tells this story and you think he's going to be lost in the story, but it hits you when he applies it line by line. That to me is powerful. It's inspirational. When you look at his story, it's basically, or his stories rather, they are human stories. They are stories you can identify with. They're stories that you can relate to. The difficulties that he mentions, you can identify with. The difficulties, especially now when South Africa has just come out of COVID-19, the kind of things that have happened, the deaths, the unemployment, the sicknesses, and all of that. So it's if you are wanting to hear a powerful preacher, if I may use that, him having been a preacher for most of his life, apply every story. I mean, Patrick has an ability to even go on Facebook and take an ant and give you a powerful lesson from it. and he did another story just recently. So his ability to help you to relate to the story, to connect you, to hook you in the story, you cannot miss. So I would recommend the book to any person who is going through a difficult period, any person who wants encouragement, wants motivation and inspiration. This is the book. This is the book for me that would make it, because of the author's ability to make the story speak to you, make the story relevant, and make the story meaningful. One of the things I want to say about which you asked earlier is, does it resonate with Patrick? It's amazing how sometimes you've got to say while you read the book, did Patrick go through this? Did he go through the trauma of the cancer? Because you don't see that when you see him in the public space. You don't know what a person is going through sometimes until you hear it from the person. I mean, he had the ability to carry it. He doesn't wear his problems on his sleeves, as it were. He's able to carry himself as if life is okay, in spite of the adversities that he was facing.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that out. That's very important, that sometimes not everybody on the street should be reading your problems on your face. You know, I like what you're saying. Just a few comments from people that are watching live on Facebook. Lirato Amata saying, I will make sure I get one copy soonest, my leader. Congratulations. Luyanda Mnyandu saying, I can't wait to get my copy of the book. The panelists are activating my appetite. So Luyanda Mnyandu is salivating now from what the panelists are saying. Tochen Luampikoli says, I want to find that gap in the cloud. Lutando Chalibongo saying, looking forward to reading the book. Well done, Brapet. And Luvuyo Sizani and Temiko Simatika are also watching. And Lungile Mbunge Obrech, originally from Zone 8 Zwelicha, in the then Sea Sky. He says, Putiza, you guys are doing some wonderful work here, okay? And I'm so encouraged. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. We don't have a lot of time. Dr. Papu, let me come to you. It might be the last minute that I offer you, Dr. Papu. African University, from where you are sitting now, why would you encourage the Adventist community and the university, the African University based in Kenya, to find a copy of this book? Why would you encourage your university to even have this book in your library?
Okay, thank you very much. I think if I don't say this, would have done disservice to this book, Gap in the Cloud. This book is not promoting or advocating prosperity theology, and I need to just take 1 minute to explain that. Somewhere in Pet's story, he says here to confront this whole idea of his fear, and where he said, "Why am I afraid?" When he was faced with death, why am I afraid? Then he said, I'm afraid because my wife, my children, and this. And then the voice said, but I'll take care of them better than you do. So what's the problem? So for me, and this is very important, not everyone who's faced with a cloud is going to survive. You may die. And we don't want to give an impression here that if you are faced with cancer, Pat made it, you will make it also. There are people who are dying, and we have to face that. I don't want to be a theologian that says, because God is on your side, you will not die. You will die. Even Christ himself died and God was on his side. So what he's saying here, which to me is very important, and I would like to take home, is to conquer fear. And somewhere as I put it in my words, he was ready to fight, do everything to make sure that he conquers this cancer, do everything, herbs, traditional approaches, or whatever. He was willing to do everything. I mean, within his ethics, of course. I don't mean going to witch doctors and stuff like that. But he was willing to do everything to to conquer this cancer. He was not just saying, I'm praying and praying, that one day he was getting involved in health transformation and reformation, but also, which is very important, he was ready to die. Now, once you are ready to die, you are saying, if I die, I'm fine, I'm okay. It gives you the ability to fight, because you have actually dealt with your demise and you have conquered it. Now you are fighting. Then you don't have, and that actually just boosts your immune system in ways you can never understand. And for me, therefore, if I were to give reasons why we need to read this book, is learning how to conquer fear, because that thing is terrible. It destroys you before you are dead. And that's basically what it says, that once you conquer your fear of death, you're ready to live. Even if you die, you're ready to live. You will live a powerful and effective legacy. And that's my take on this book. Gap in the Cloud. It's ever living, hopefully, even at the point where you are dying and you are dead and buried. In your tombstone, it says he still lives. You see, people who are hopeful, even when they are dead, they keep inspire others to live. So you may not survive that experience and die, but others will live because of your death, in how you died, in that you did not die because you were dead. Now, there are people who die because they are dead, but you died because life has come to an end, but you are still alive in your stories, in how you approach life, and inspired hope to those who are going through difficulties. That's my take.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you so much. I like that. And I think I like the angle where we're ending it. We've just gone 3:01, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, and you viewers at home. You want to know about how you can get a book? I've got people that are writing now from the audience saying, can't wait. How do I get a copy? Can't wait. Can't wait. How do I get a copy? Pat, you are the one that's doing the last 60 seconds to close it, particularly on how people can get a copy. Give me that gap.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dange, and thanks to all of the panelists for their wonderful reviews and reflection on this book, as well as those that are watching at home and will be watching in the future. This book, the many ways that people can get it. If you want it online, you can get it on Amazon. You can just type the name of the book and my name. You can get it from there, and people can also get it from me. On my email address, which is patrickkulati@gmail.com. They can get it directly from me in that way, and then we can arrange things like courier, and then we can send it through to them. We are going to be working to try and get it on the bookshops, on the bookstores, but for now, those are the two ways that people can get it. They can order by sending an email to that email address, and then let me know how and when it can be delivered to them, and then we can make that plan going. But I really want to encourage people to share about their stories. We want to create a movement called a Gap in the Cloud movement. As people read the book, share with others so that other people can even be healed from your own gaps and your own clouds. Thank you.
Wow. Well, may I also just thank all the panelists today. Amazing virtual book launch, A Gap in the Cloud. You've heard of how you can get a copy. Patrick Kulati, one word, at gmail.com. Patrick Kulati, one word, at gmail.com. And then you will exchange. He'll give you all the information, take your address and bank particulars and all of that, and then there you have it. You will have a book that is signed by the man. It is so nice to have a book that's signed by the author. Well, from myself, the host today, Pat Komafani, it's been such an awesome opportunity, and thanks to Pat as well to elect that I should facilitate this conversation, and in conversation with authors that are in the studio with us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to the two ladies, and all of you gentlemen. Thank you so much. We may now leave the studio. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew and Lindy and Lynn. Thank you, guys.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful time. Thank you, guys. Andrew,
All right.
Lindy, Lynn, the Papu.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I just want to make this one last announcement. That is, we are going to do a physical launch here in Johannesburg next Saturday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to be at the Cedar Woods here in Sandton, or in Woodmead, sorry. You can find in the social media platforms where you can go to this site. We're going to stream it live as well. But for those people who want to have the book and want to be with the author, where we can sign the book, please, I encourage you to go and do that. We have a registration thing going on, but for those people who may not have the registration ability to do the registration for whatever reason, please show up. Everybody is welcome to come to the site. And I want to thank the colleagues that are remaining and those that have left. Really appreciate it so much. Lyndall, Andrew, Funsum Funelo, Pastor Papu, Patko, and Lindy. Thank you so much. Those who are in Cape Town, we're coming on the 13th of August in the evening. It will be Saturday or Sabbath. We'll see you there. Thank you so much. All the best. Thanks, guys, for joining. Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. Okay, let me end the broadcast.